Alright, so now we are going to move on to the heart of the flower. So we can see some different colors in there. I'll be using multiple yellows, like cadmium yellow. So I can also find some darker colors in there. So I'm going to use burnt ochre. And then some more of the Caput Mortem violet. And also right in the middle we have some red spots. So I'll also be using several reds. So to get the texture right, we are going to work again in multiple layers. So let's get started. Alright, so we have a circle of these longer parts sticking out, and then we have the red part in the middle. So first we are going to map out the longer area, so that's these. And I'm using the dark cadmium yellow for this. And then right here we have one of these longer ones, and right here I'm basically making a circle. Kind of recreating the direction they are going in. And then right away we're going to start mapping out these red spots. So very lightly, using the Pale Geranium Lake number 121, I'm going to draw in these red spots just to get them in the right place. So very lightly. Alright, so now I have those mapped out, I can start adding a base layer of yellow across the whole heart. So I'm going to add a very light layer of cream, very lightly in circular motions. I hope you can see it on camera. I'm avoiding the red spots though, so I'm drawing around those. I am going in between them, but I'm not going over the red area. So now I got a light layer of green everywhere. So now it's time to start recreating the textures and add some shading. So for that I'm going back to a dark Naples ochre, number 184. So now I'm slowly going to add some texture in there. Going to darken up the outer edges a little bit more. So I'm going to try to recreate the texture I see, but I'm not going to completely copy it. So this whole area here around the dark red area can be a bit darker, so I'm going over with a light layer of this darker yellow in circular motions again. And also here on the sides it's a bit darker, so I'm going over with this darker yellow in circular motions again. Using very light pressure. Going to make these sticking out areas a little more prominent by adding some middle purple pink. So here on the outer edges I'm really defining some of those shapes a bit more. We have some curly parts sticking out. Alright, so now I'm going to continue adding some texture with burnt ochre now. So I'm taking the burnt ochre and I'm going to add it around this area. So this is where it's the darkest, so I'm going to add shadows. Just tiny strokes in upward motions. Trying to create that curly texture. So right here in the middle they are changing directions, so the curls here are going towards the right a little bit, and then here they are moving towards the left, so make sure to add that direction change right here. And then with the burnt ochre I can also define the shapes of these longer parts a bit more. So now I want to brighten up the center area a little bit, so I'm taking yellow glaze number 104, and this is a very bright yellow, and I'm going to add this to the center area around the red part. Okay, so now I want to start adding some really dark shadows in between the curls right here. So for that I'm going to use Venetian red. So this is a darker red, it's almost a bit brown, and with that I'm going to really add some shadows. Still using a light pressure. So I'm really still working on the base layers here. So now I want to start adding the green parts right here. Here you can see some green from the stem, so I'm going to get some green and put it in there. I'm going to use a combination of green yellowish and cold grey. So right here I can find some green. Right there. Also right here. Also here right in between the curls I can find some green here as well. Now I'm taking this cold grey, it's number 235. I'm going to add that on top to darken it up and to tone it down. Using a tiny little bit of black again on top of the green to darken it up a little bit more, especially in the shadow areas. So right here. Right, so now I'm using this orange, it's cadmium orange, and with this I'm going to make this outer ring a little bit more orangey. So I'm going to go on top of everything with light layers. And now to go over the shadow areas again, I use terracotta. So again, I'm going to create those shadow parts in between the curls with terracotta. This is a really nice orange color, but pretty dark. And then to really darken up those shadows, I'll be using burnt sienna. So I'm not going to do a lot of blending here in this part because I don't want to smudge out the details. So I'm going to do very few blending. I'm going to do most of the burnishing with the colors themselves and not necessarily with the white. And now that we have an idea of the direction of these curls, we can start to define the shapes a bit more. So I'm again not copying my reference photo completely, but I am trying to create an impression of the right texture. try to stay a bit random with shapes like this. You don't want them all to be the same size, so try to be a bit random. And now that I've added most of the shadows, I'm going to hype up the saturation, put in some more color with first with this yellow again, with the cadmium yellow. I'm going to sharpen it. I want it to be really sharp. And for sharpening right now, I just use these metal ones. So I'm going to fill up the gaps with this one. Make sure that every area is covered. now going in with Sanguine, also a really nice cross between orange, red and brown. I really like this color, adding some more depth in there, some more shadow. And of course you don't need to be using the exact same colors that I use. If you are working with another brand, with a different brand, you can just pick out the colors that are similar, but there's not one way to do it. There are lots of different ways to use colored pencil, and please don't feel like you have to have every color that I use. Going to burnish a bit with this bright yellow named Cream. So now I'm really trying to get rid of the paper texture. I think these longer areas right here could use some red, so I'm using Pale Geranium Lake, adding some color variation in there, just along the sides. Now I'm picking Walnut Brown to darken up some of the shadows here along the edges. So I'm really trying to stay away from black as much as possible and try to do my shadows with other colors by layering different colors on top of each other. That way you usually get a lot more depth in your drawing than when using straight black. So if there are some parts that you'd like to smooth out, you can take the white and go over. Getting rid of some harsh lines here and there. Adding some more orange. So now we still have to finish the red dots in the middle. So I'm taking my pale Coronium Lake and I'm going to add some more pressure and draw in these spots. And then to add some depth to those, I take the dark red and I'm going to darken up some of these spots. And to make some of these extra dark, I can add some Caput Mortem Violet. And now I'm going over with my cadmium yellow to make them blend in. Some of these red spots have some very little highlights in them, so I'm taking my Jelly Roll pen. I'm going to add one bright spot to the dots that are the closest to us. So just one tiny highlight. And to draw in some bigger highlights, you can use the Tombow Mono Zero eraser again. Just pull out some highlights. Make sure that you use paper that can handle this. And with that finished, it's time to move on to the stem of the flower.